Hey, what's up everybody, this is host Private1, and today I'm going to bring you guys another build, and this is going to be a sustained AR damage build with some healing added in. Now, since this build is mainly focused on all of the red stats and just getting high stats for your damage, it is going to be much better after the upcoming patch because of the recalibration changes coming, meaning you'll be able to have much higher stats, and the only thing that will be affected by nerfs so far on the PTS is clutch, which it just gives you 20% health instead of 15%, but only 1% armor. So it's kind of a nerf if you look at it like that, but if you have a little higher health, it'll pretty much be the same, or it could possibly be better depending on the build. Now for the main hand weapon, it's obviously going to be a P416, because this is just the best gun in the game, pretty much by far, or AR at least. And I rolled Ranger on it, which is going to be the best talent in the upcoming patch as well. So every 5 meters you are from the target grants 2% weapon damage, and you need 4 or less yellow for that. I do have the Allegro on it, which is going to be the best talent there. The last one is kind of up to you. There's not really ones that add a ton of damage. Now, for the attachments on this weapon, the scope is going to be the 5% damage to elites. You're definitely going to want any of the scopes that have the times on the side so you can get the damage from the Nemesis holster talent. Then for our clip is going to be the plus 10 rounds. Now I think there is a plus 20 rounds one that gives you reload speed reduction. I'm not 100% certain on that for this weapon, but if there is that one would definitely be better. Then we have the critical hit chance right here. More critical chance is always good. If you have a higher critical chance and rolled more into that with what gear you have, you can definitely do damage. If you're already at a cap, this could give a less than 5%. So if you're at that point, you should probably do the critical damage. And then for this, we have 5% damage to elites, which is a pretty big part of this build, damage to elites. Also, this build is not super well built for solo, lower difficulty stuff where you're facing mainly veterans and just normal enemies. This is much more built, control point, alert level 3 plus, challenging and heroic missions and strongholds, and the dark zone, stuff like that, because it's so much damage towards elites. Now we're using the Nemesis for the holster talent. While holstered, you gain plus 25% headshot damage when scoped with the current weapon, which is why you're going to want a attachment that has the times on the side, so you could do the ACOG if you wanted. But this right here is going to be the best scope, the 5% damage to elites. The Nemesis you can also use because it is just a good weapon. You can use this like you can one-shot bosses with this if you set it up, even in this build. So if you want to do that, some of the time you definitely can do that as well, but mainly for the holster talent. The secondary weapon is pretty much just what you want, whatever holster talent you want. So going into the gear, you're going to want, I'm mainly in this build going for, just straight damage increases, damage to elite, stuff like that. A little less on the critical chance and critical damage, but we do have some of that. So my headpiece, or my mask, I guess, is a wyvern wear roll, which is pretty decent in this, especially since I have the 3 set of that. It has a 42% damage to elites. I think the max on this is 45%. So pretty good roll, even though it's only a 450. Roll to 465. Then the damage to elites. Both of the big damage to elite rolls on this are pretty much what you're going to want. The damage to elite, as you can see, I have it on every piece but one. You're going to want that on pretty much everything, especially if you're using this, what I'm using it for. And then the big damage to elite roll on that is definitely what you're going to want for that headpiece. My back piece is probably my weakest rolled piece. I still have not been able to get any other decent pieces. I do have better rolled pieces, but they don't have the wyvern wear, and the critical damage and the 10% critical chance are actually pretty big damage increases. So I have the 3.5% weapon damage and the 5% critical hit damage. It might be better for me to roll that critical damage to like a headshot damage or something like that, but I want to try to at least not have all just headshot damage stuff on this. So if you don't want to hit headshots as much, with the Nemesis damage increase and stuff like that, and the specialization I'm using, you still are going to want to hit headshots. But yeah, my back piece or my backpack definitely needs some rolls because it has a utility roll as well, which isn't too useful in this build. and the secondary talent on it. There's not really any other damage talents that I can get on this, so something like a armor increase or a health increase would probably be much better. So this backpack definitely needs a much better roll. That's probably my weakest piece. Now for the chest piece, I do have a Fenris for the 10% assault rifle damage increase, which you're going to want. I have the weapon damage plus 8% on it, which is a pretty good roll. 7.5% headshot damage, which is pretty good as well. Just kind of base damage increases and headshot damage increase. Now we do have Unstoppable Force on this. You could get a talent roll with something that's just a base stat like health or armor or something again. And then I have the damage to elites. Now the Unstoppable Force, this chest piece I will also be using. I'm trying to make a build that's kind of like this build, just that has Unstoppable Force active, even though Unstoppable Force is getting nerfed in the next patch. I think that could also still be a decent build if I can get the rolls correct, but I haven't gotten good enough rolls to make it better than this build yet. The damage to elites pretty clearly. Then I have an offensive mod slot roll with 4% assault rifle damage and the 1.5% weapon damage on it, so pretty decent mod. I've not gotten any generic mods for this build. Pretty much all the good generic mods I've gotten so far have been armor, marksman rifle, or LMG, so no assault rifle stuff yet. Now for the gloves, this is where the healing comes in. I am using clutch, which with a rifle like this with 825 RPM, which is a pretty decently fast firing weapon, clutch is actually pretty nice. It's not the best because we're not going for straight critical at chance and critical damage. I have 36.5% critical at chance, which is probably more important with clutch than the damage. So it is a decent chance. I think it's like 40% or something like that, where the soft cap for critical at chance comes in. So it's not terrible. And the reason I'm using this is because I am so squishy. I could use a roll of this that, you know, is assault rifle damage as well, and then more damage to elites, which is 15% more damage. If you want to do that and you think you can survive decently with whatever higher content you're doing, because this build is mainly for that higher content, you can definitely switch out clutch if you want to. I like clutch, you know, just because it has that healing with the high RPM, even with only, you know, 36% crit. You still get quite a bit of healing and armor repair, so it is pretty decent. Then we have another offensive roll with weapon damage and headshot damage, a little bit optimal range, which does help a bit with the ARs. And for our next piece, we did not get a very good brand set. Our brand set on this isn't very good either. I would probably rather have, you know, the damage to elite piece, you know, higher armor, higher health, that type of stuff, damage reduction, all that type of stuff would probably be better than these. But this roll is critical chance, 14.5%. I think you can get to 15, but I don't have a 15 roll. So you're going to want the critical chance big roll on that. If you have better critical chance, maybe going into a critical damage roll on this could be better depending on what kind of gear you have. Then the damage to elite roll on it. Clearly, all the damage to elite you can get is good. Then we have 3% assault rifle damage and 2% weapon damage. So another decent mod. You know, some generic mods I could probably get better than this, hopefully, if I get those anytime soon. So our last piece is going to be another really well-rolled piece. I got a lot of really well-rolled pieces back at 450 gear score. And this is my third piece of Wyvern wear, which is very important for the you know, critical damage and critical chance. Critical chance 7%. I have a lot of these big critical hit chance rolls on these two pieces, which go well with clutch. Mainly the reason I'm using the high critical chance on those two pieces. Hard hitting again, very good. Then another offensive mod style roll, 1.5% weapon damage, 3% optimal range, and 2.5% headshot damage. So there's a good amount of headshot damage in this build, so maybe if you're on console, maybe try to switch out some of that headshot damage if you're more comfortable with without using headshots. The headshots, you know, being able to hit them will increase your damage a lot. But, you know, if you're on console or something and you're not able to hit those headshots as frequently, you can definitely change the fight. You can definitely change out Nemesis, you know, to Chatterbox if you want to use a Chatterbox. If you want to use a Merciless, probably Chatterbox is going to be better than Merciless, because Chatterbox, also with Chatterbox, if you want to take a lot of headshot damage stuff out, that does let you change whatever reticle, because you can use whatever you want. You could actually use like a hollow sight here with 8% damage to elite, so you could change that out, get a little bit of damage there. The Chatterbox proc would also increase your fire rate, which does increase your damage by a lot, but it also increases your clutch, because you know you're hitting so much more that your clutch is going to be proccing a lot more. So it is still decent if you want to remove some headshot if you don't have as much headshot damage rolls like I do on my chest piece and all that type of stuff. You could definitely switch to the Chatterbox and not use a Nemesis and do that. Now for the specialization, I am using the Sharpshooter, which mainly for the headshot damage. The stability is also super nice and the reload speed is super nice. Mainly pretty much only for those three. But if you, again, don't feel as, you know, good about the headshots, you can use this, which I just excellently respect. You can use the crossbow talent tree and get the 15% assault rifle damage increase, which will increase the damage just on your assault rifle. Probably got to activate it, but that'll just increase your base damage. So that also is a way to, you know, just get more damage without having to rely so much on headshots. If you're on PC, you're probably going to be much better off with the headshots, but you know, console aiming on a controller isn't as easy as it is on PC. Now for the abilities, you can absolutely use whatever you want, which is another reason I like these type of builds that are just kind of going for stats, is you don't have to use any specific abilities. Now mostly you're going to want to use utility stuff, so I definitely would recommend the chem launcher still for the healing, especially since you're so squishy. But past that, you can use whatever. I'm using the Revive Hive right now. You can definitely use a ton of other stuff. You know, if you're say doing you know, harder strongholds or missions or anything like that, and you know the missions and you know when enemies are going to spawn, and you know you're fighting these big groups of enemies and rooms and stuff like that, the incinerator turret is always a good ability to use. It just catches everything on fire, constantly CCs them, and does damage. Always good. The revive drone, or the revive hive, is always good. The healing hive is also pretty good if you're in some group content. You know, you have the heal drone, you have the defender drone, you have all that type of stuff. Defensive stuff is really going to work well with this build since you're so squishy. But that is pretty much the entire build. Let me know what you think about this build. Subscribe if you want to see more Division 2 content. Leave a like if you like the video. Leave a comment down below what you think about Division 2 as a whole. Again, what you think about this build. And thanks for watching.
Engaged. Understood. Done for. Hostiles detected. Got one. An agent needs assistance. In my sights.